What are the top 5 Indy Christian films that I think are worth watching? Find out on this week's Indy Christian Review. So I had a lot of fun with my Attack of the End Times movies episode, so I'm going to do another super episode. But I'm going to be a lot more positive this go around and look at my top 5 favorite independent Christian films that I haven't already reviewed. See, I've actually already reviewed several of those on my top 5 list already, and I don't want to double up. So without any further ado, let's dig into my top 5 indie Christian films that I haven't already reviewed. Number 5, Mysterious Ways. And this one's a classic from 2000 and was a huge part of my journey from making stupid Star Wars fan films to getting serious about filmmaking. And technical quality-wise, it's admittedly pretty weak, but it's a fun movie and it's got a lot of nostalgia points for me. And Mysterious Ways is about a Christian family that starts to homeschool their kids after their oldest son Buddy gets suspended for repeatedly posting the 10 Commandments at school. Oh, and the dad just lost his job. And a social worker Nazi is trying to criminalize homeschooling. And she bursts into their home and gets the dad arrested. Now, I was homeschooled, so there's a lot of homeschool humor in this movie that I think is absolutely hysterical. The movie makes a case for homeschooling to try to convince those who maybe are sitting on the fence or have objections to homeschooling. And it's also got a great family message. Overall, it's a really fun movie. Number 4, The Book of Being. This film is a Lord of the Rings meets Pilgrim's Progress allegory that tells the story of 3 adventurers from the land of being trying to save their homes from the evil Afel. The 3 come from different territories in being called man's mind, man's strength, and man's heart. And on their journey they must not only overcome the Afel that stand in their way, but also their own bickering within the group and reliance on their own individual strengths. It does have some weaknesses in the production, and the Lord of the Rings inspired prologue is a bit too long in my opinion. And the dialogue is... oh, what's a nice way to say this? If your studies of the English language never included any literature older than the 1970s, you might have a hard time following along. It's a lot of old-fashioned, formal, epic-y type English. Again, I was homeschooled, so I understood it perfectly. It's another fun movie, and it's a good allegory of the daily struggles that we as Christians go through trying to follow Christ every day. Number 3, The Secrets of Jonathan Sperry. Rich Cristiano's latest film is really, really good. It's about some boys in the 1970s that start being mentored by an older gentleman, Jonathan Sperry, who teaches them about loving God and how to live a Christian life. It's well acted, has gorgeous cinematography, and has a fantastic story. But I do still have some little complaints. First off, were kids really that clean in the 70s? I mean, look at them! Slicked hair, nice clothes. I mean, even when he's doing yard work, the worst he's got is a sweaty collar. I don't know, I need to consult an expert on this. Hey Dad, you were a kid in the 70s, right?
Yes.
Did they dress as neatly as they did in The Secrets of Jonathan Sperry?
I didn't see any holes in the knees of those boys' pants. We always had holes in our knees and mostly wore t-shirts. Sometimes we wore collar shirts, but not as often as they did in that movie.
That's what I thought. My other complaint is that the bully is probably the least intimidating looking bully ever. I mean, I was never a big kid, but I wouldn't have been scared of him when I was 12. But again, these are minor complaints. It's a very inspiring story, and it encouraged me, even as a 20-something, to be more like Jonathan Sperry, to really know and love God, and to encourage those that are younger than me to do the same. Number 2, Rust. Now, this is a very, very interesting movie. It's a mystery. It's a drama. It's Canadian. Starring Corbin Burnson, Rust is about a pastor who's had a crisis of faith and left the ministry. He's returned to his home of Kipling, Saskatchewan, only to find that his childhood friend has been accused of setting a house on fire and burning the family inside to death. Got your attention yet? This is like a slightly less suspenseful Alfred Hitchcock movie. It really keeps you guessing the whole way through, and while I'm not a huge fan of the whole pastor who's lost his faith archetype, it's done really well. The cinematography is very nice, and the acting's okay. Corbin Burnson is fantastic, but the rest of the cast are actual citizens of Kipling, Saskatchewan, and none of them are professional actors. And you can tell. Again, they're not bad, just okay. Rust really makes you think, and I really recommend it. And now, my number one indie Christian film that I haven't already reviewed yet is Fireproof. What, that doesn't surprise you? Well, remember, like I keep saying, this is not my top 5 overall list. Fireproof is actually not my number one favorite Christian film, but it is in my, overall top 5. And I actually think that Fireproof is better than Courageous. Yeah, I said it. See, Courageous is inspiring as a dad and all, but I just felt that Fireproof told a better story better. Partly because there's just one main character and one main story. Courageous, I feel, tries too hard to cover as many father situations as it can and develops a bad case of too many plotlines-itis. Fireproof stuck with one story and I felt developed it well. Now, for those of you who haven't seen it yet, Fireproof is about a firefighter whose marriage is falling apart and his fight to put it back together after he accepts Christ. The cinematography is good, though there's nothing really spectacular about it, and the acting, like all Sherwood films, is hit and miss, but overall pretty good. It's a great story about a guy fighting for his marriage, and it has some great moments of emotion, drama, tension, humor, and a very satisfying ending. Again, like all Sherwood films. But I feel that Fireproof's biggest flaw is the way it handled the main character's pornography addiction. It's very tastefully done, don't get me wrong, but I feel it just does a very big disservice to anyone who struggles with any kind of addiction. Now, I've spoken with counselors and people who have suffered through addictions, and they'll be the first to tell you that it takes more than one time of beating your computer to a pulp with a baseball bat to solve the problem. Sure, it makes for a nice character triumph moment for the movie, but that's not how it works. I'm just saying that if they really felt that they had to address this huge issue of pornography addiction, then they shouldn't have treated it so flippantly. But since that isn't the focus of the movie, there is still plenty to enjoy, and overall it's just a fantastic movie. Well, that's all the time we have. Thank you for watching. Next week we'll be taking a road trip with Dad the Hero on vacation. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter, and check out our other reviews at indychristianreview.com. I'm Zack Lawrence. May God bless you, and may God bless independent Christian films. This episode of Indy Christian Review is brought to you by the Ichthus Network, your hub for Christian web series. Visit ichthusnetwork.com.